as a starter, I grew up in Cleveland, originally a Cleveland guy. Moved out to California about 20 years ago, and to finish business school. Started my MBA at John Carroll, moved out to San Diego and finished up at the University of San Diego. And I kind of use that as a little bit of a starting point because for a couple reasons. One, I went to Bowling Green, and two, I went to John Carroll, and I've got a younger, smarter brother. And people always ask me, why did I go to Bowling Green? It's because I didn't get into Miami, but my youngest brother did, so he's a smarter brother. Why did I go to John Carroll? Because I couldn't get into a bigger school. My younger brother went to Harvard. He later went to Goldman Sachs. He later became a big-time banker. So he's a much smarter guy than me. So when I was in San Diego, I took an organizational behavior class. It was about being your brand in the 20th century. Don't sell the product that you have. Have the product become you. And one of my classes, I had to read a Tom Peters book. And the Tom Peters book said, be this brand. And someone gave me the slogan, willing to work harder. And I said, that would be a good email. Instead of saying sincerely, I'll start signing my name, willing to work harder, out in California. And that became my brand, WTWH. And my younger brother said when I launched my business, I had to be like Rock Media or some banker term. I said it was going to be WTWH Media. So the whole WTWH, in case you don't know, stands for willing to work harder. That's our brand. That's the way we kind of go to market. And I kind of share that with you because I finished grad school in 1997 out in San Diego, and I started my career with Penton here in Cleveland. And for 10 years, I sold for Penton. And at the end, in 2005, I was an independent rep. So I sold for Penton as well as 6 other publishers. And I went to 7 publishing sales meetings in summer of 2005. Right after this is our house that my wife and I had just bought. And my wife told me I was a professional sales meeting attendee. I could go to a sales meeting like no one's business. But at that meeting, every publisher told me to keep selling print advertising. And I had a really good business selling print advertising, but I knew it wasn't the business that my customers wanted. And I was trying to figure out how I was going to evolve and change it. So my younger, smarter brother from Harvard put together a business plan. And you can hold on one second, or go back. He put together a business plan, and it was 55 pages. And everything in it was dialed up, just like you would expect out of a HBS guy. We took it to market. We were going to raise some money. We had a couple opportunities to do so that we thought were really expensive. So my wife and I decided that we had just bought this house, and we used this house in 2006 as a credit card. If you think of the market in California and homes, and back in 05, 06, it was going crazy. This is in Manhattan Beach, California. If you Google it, it's crazy expensive. But we had poured everything into the business, or into this house to buy it. And we used it as a credit card to launch WTWH Media. So I named it wrong. My brother told me my naming was wrong. He told me I was crazy for using my house. I have another brother who moved to Kansas City who said, Scott, when it doesn't work out, you can move into my basement in Kansas City. You're good. In our original business plan, there were only 2 things that were right out of 55 pages. Our bet was that media consumption would change, and this is in 2006. In 2006, our big bet was the RSS feed. Microsoft was going to enable you to put an RSS feed and you could get content on your terms. And we thought that is the bet we're going to make. And then we said that marketers were going to have ROI. I sold so many programs back in the day in 2001 to 2005 where I went back to my customers and I said, sorry, it didn't work, because publishers were learning how to do digital. And I just got to the point where it's like, how can you keep going back saying, I'm sorry? So, and our bet here was we never did anything with the reader service card. If for those of you who are familiar with the reader service card, we said that's not the future, that's dead, but they're going to have some tangible evidence of what's going on. So we had that slide right for us. We had this slide right here. Believe it or not, in 2005 we created a slide. Now the guy used to look a lot more like me with glasses, nerdy. If you heard his voice, it was nasally. Now we modernized him, made him a cool guy, cool engineer. But our bet was, and we had this slide in 2006, the user was going to take control of how they get their information. They were going to decide on their terms, when they wanted it, how they wanted it, where they were going to get it from. And I know that today that's all we hear about, but that was our bet in 2006. And people thought, Joel, 2006, people thought we were really crazy. But we were saying, hey, these social impacts are going to come and make a big difference. And from that, so we launched Design World Online, and people were like, this is not going to work. And when we started the business, again, I bet my house. We hired a sales staff that we thought were a bunch of sales studs. We had 2 editors that came with us from a former employer. They came to our original first meeting. They left the meeting and they said, we're not taking your offer. So I'd already quit my job, I'd already used my house, and I've already said we're going to launch this magazine and website in October 2006. And we've scrambled for plan B, made it work. Me and my business partner divided and conquered and got the business up and running. And at about that time in 2007, Folio magazine, which is like it's a B2B magazine that covers industry, they invited me to speak at a conference about how can 2 guys launch a magazine and a website in today's industry, and why are you guys doing it? You guys are friggin' nuts. And we had gained a little bit of traction, and they said, how did you do it? And so I worked with one of my business partners on what are the 5 things that are going to define us. And this is what we defined in 2007 in terms of how we're going to run our business, and it hasn't changed. So if you think about it, I'm going to show you 3 slides that I've been rinsing and repeating, but the core premise of our whole business. And that what we were going to do is embrace technology shifts. So we were going to follow the technology in terms of where it was going, and we're going to embrace those and learn about them as much as we can. We're going to lead, not bleed with technology applications. This is really important. Back in 2007, 2008, our first website was on ASPX. And we had an in-house developer who was tooling around with this thing called WordPress. And he said, Scott, we're using an outside vendor to create our sites. I have to create a change order to get a header on the website. What if we take control of this? And he would say, I'm going to spin up some WordPress sites and use some of these templates. We can launch all these things. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. And we started spinning up websites by technology. We wanted to enable participation. So I'm kind of mirroring probably some of the things that you've shared, Alan. And by enabling participation, we want to be able to go to market and let our customers understand what was going on and let them participate in the new technologies. Use us as the guinea pigs. We'll fail, and we'll fail fast. Hopefully we won't go out of business doing it, but in some instances, if we make a mistake, at least you guys don't spend your money to do it. We'll take it on us to learn how to do it, execute it. One of the ways we did that is early on, we started shooting video at trade shows. And the bigger companies were saying you had to upload and pay to put a video on their site. So you'd produce a video, and then you had to pay. And we looked at it and we said, you can upload a video on YouTube for free and you're going to charge it over here? That's crazy. And then our customers would say, but we don't have any video equipment. So we started shooting the videos for them at trade shows, giving them a chance to participate, see some value in the videos associated with it. And all of a sudden they were able to make that decision on their own to invest in that resource. We wanted to eliminate the risk. Someone buys a program, everyone has been retrained on how to buy media. And that's from Google. It's PPC. It's a cost per click. I spend X dollars, what am I getting in return? So we've spent every program that we've started to do is talk about the outcomes instead of the hopes. What are you going to expect to get out of the program? What do you want at the outcome? How can we make it work? And based on our audience and our experience, can we deliver what your expectations are? And then we said content was going to go beyond print. And again, back 2007, 2008, if a new print issue came out, the publisher would update his website. That's when they would make their change. And we said, no, we're going to update our content in real time, and it's just going to happen. You don't have to wait until the next issue to get in the new equipment section of the magazine. You're going to, in real time, get that posted and then out to all the different channels. Meanwhile, we said, hey, video is a piece of content. We said webinars are a piece of content. Podcasting came out, that's a piece of content. So as a publisher, content doesn't necessarily start and end with the print magazine, and you can't look at it, your editorial or your content calendar, and define it by what your print schedule is. It's totally different. So we came out with this in 2007 and run our business since then on that whole terms. Along the way, if you think about it, we started with one magazine, one website, using the house as a credit card, and for 12 years, we've never taken any outside money to run our business. We've just reinvested everything. Today, we're publishing 50 plus websites, so we're spinning up WordPress websites, and we're covering 10 core markets. We're started with Design World, and we've kind of followed the market trends. We launched in wind and solar on an organic basis. We spun up some websites, created some audience, developed some content, went to some trade shows and sold some advertising or media sponsorship. Then we launched in the fluid power market. Then we launched into 3D printing, again, following what's going on in the market. We entered into electrical engineering, medical with mass device. We've done a bunch of things in medical, robotics, and then last year, total outlier to our business, but the core technologies, we're in the C-store market and country clubs. I grew up caddying for 12 years, so I have a strong affinity to the club market. And then on the C-store, and that's because I had two friends that I grew up with at Penton that were trying to buy a business from their business partners but couldn't, and asked me to step in and buy their business, and they rolled it with us. So today we publish over 50 websites, 3.5 million registered users across all our sites. You know, you can kind of get the gist of it there. Again, 50 websites. We still do that dirty rotten thing called print, but very targeted and niche. We run a bunch of live events. We had a killer event this year that we started in robotics that had 2,500 folks come to, which was off the chart in the robotics industry, or robotics technology. And this one, I'm going to bring this up only to brag. This is the thing that I care about the most. I don't take that much. I put all the money back into it, but I really like my Inc. 5000 plaques. I mean, if you come to our company, I've got all our Inc. 5000 plaques, because that's one of the things that I kind of thrive on, is can we continue to grow at a rate that, show continuous growth. My thing in media, as a media guy, is like, I either grow this business or it dies. If I can't continue to grow an audience and develop the audience and increase sponsorship, I'm going to go out of business. So I've lived in a complete fear for the last 9 years on growing my business. And so the cool thing is we've got 9 years straight. So knock on wood, I think everything's good. I can tell you right now, I'm really confident. At the end of the year, we're 4920, right? Inc. 5000, 5000. I don't care if I'm 4999. As long as I get a plaque. No one's going to look at the numbers. They're just going to see my plaques. And I'm confident that we're going to get there next year. So a lot of people ask me how I did it or what we've done, and I call it stanza management. I look at what the big publishers are doing, and I just do the opposite. Again, I'm a Bowling Green guy. I'm not the smartest guy in the gym. So all we've done is done the opposite. When someone was charging $15,000 to a webinar and hoped that it works, we went to the market and we said, hey, how many attendees do you want? We want 200 attendees. We're going to do it on a cost per registration basis. So if we can get you the audience, you're going to pay $38 for that person. If I deliver you 100, you only pay for what I get you. If I give you 210, you're going to give me a that-a-boy that you got 10 bonus people at the event. So you're going to be excited. So for 15 years, or 12 years, Costanza management. But if you think about the evolution of B2B, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to turn myself into an old guy. I started in this business in 1989. So I'm right here in the traditional, back when it was a B2B publisher. You had a trade show and some print collateral. And you were in business. That's how you went to market. And in '89, I grew up caddying. That's why I'm into the club business. And I caddied for a guy by the name of Sal Marino, who used to run Penton Publishing here in Cleveland. And in 1989, that's B2B. Then I always talk about when Al Gore invented the internet. This is just right when I was finishing business school. And Sal had asked me to come back on the West Coast to be a territory rep. And this is 1997. And I was .com all the way. There were all sorts of opportunities out in California at the time. And I was dead broke. I couldn't figure out how I was going to pay the last 2 months of school plus rent. And they offered me a job and said, we'll wait till you graduate. So they gave me a car, a cash advance, and they let me finish school. But what attracted me in 1997 back to B2B was SEO and PPC. This thing called the World Wide Web, and as that kind of evolved, that's where I got excited about it, because it turned into a little bit more of an analytics game as opposed to could you have 4 martinis at lunch. I mean, back in '89, I went out with Ray Augustine down to Youngstown to see some customers as an intern. He dropped me off in my parents' front yard, and I fell out of the car because I'd been drinking all lunch at 21 years old. And I'm like, my older brother was like, you're crazy to go in that. You're never going to make it. But now it's all about the analytics, and that's kind of where I thrive. So then you look at when we started, I'd say 2007, 2016, it became about social media, content marketing, and what are you going to do with the data? And then today, when you talk about the business, it's about personalization, marketing automation, and artificial intelligence. But the interesting thing is when you look at B2B, the underlying current is still all about content. It was the content back with the magazines, it's the content that drives your SEO, it's the content that you use on social, it's the content that's going to drive these. So in B2B, it's all about bringing buyers to sellers together, telling a story, connecting the dots for them. I'm not going to go into this, but this, and again, I show this because when we started in 2006, I sat down with a bunch of folks and they were like, who's going to print your magazine? How are you going to physically get this magazine printed? And no one, I'm like, well, we're going to outsource it. Well, are you going to buy a printer? You should own your print. You got to control your destiny. And back then, the only thing we worried about in 2007 was building a website, getting an ESP, an email service provider, and an ad server. Today, there's 25, 30 different technologies that are engaged in what we're doing from a technology basis to deliver a campaign. And again, the big thing is how do you take all these tools and technologies and stack them together to deliver the message? And the reason why you're doing all that is because it's in Google, I call it in Google we trust, because as a publisher, Google is my friend and it's my foe. I know that I'm competing against Google AdWord campaigns and PPC in terms of where marketing dollars are shifted to, but at the same time, if I write the right type of content and create a big enough audience, then I'm gonna be relevant. And so we look at what Google's doing in terms of how to play that friend and foe. And the reason we're doing that when you think about Google is Google's going to drive a lot of anonymous users to your website from a search behavior. Where we come in, and if you think on the top here, this is the buyer's journey, right? He's anonymous until he raises his hand and fills out a form or gives you some data points that you're able to market to him. So what we're trying to do is go from that anonymous user to the known user. And so this is kind of shifting you into, when you think about artificial intelligence, when you think about where things are going, this is the critical component of what we think is what's next. So in 2007, we bet on video, then we bet on social media, and then there's marketing automation out there, which is you're only as good as the technology. But this, to me, is a critical component of what's happening. And the cool thing is, this started for us last January. I started going to what they call some of these CDP conferences and checking it out and understanding what's going on from an artificial intelligence. And the sooner we can get down here and figure out who that person is in that buyer's journey, we can make his journey shorter if we can get him the right information. He's going to have a better user experience, better customer experience, and probably come back to us. So that's where this whole, and this is where Virginia gets to kind of take us, because I'm not the one that does the real work. I get to say, hey, I think this is what we're going to do. And I kind of threw this on Virginia and Marshall Matheson's desk about a year ago, a little over a year ago, and said, hey, this is where we need to go, figure it out. And she spent I'd be remiss if I took the stage, because she's done the work from vendors. I mean, spent 6 months trying to figure it out from a vendor selection, and now implementation, and now starting to execute campaigns. And it's really cool stuff how we blended it. So I'll give the stage to Virginia.
Hi, I'm Virginia Goulding. I'm the Vice President of Digital Marketing at WTWH. As Scott said, I'm leading up our marketing and artificial intelligence efforts at WTWH. We started on this journey back in January, vetting out different CDPs. We'll talk in a minute about CDPs, but if you've heard the term customer data platform, there are probably about 150 different CDP vendors out there. So we embarked on the journey of narrowing that very long list of CDP vendors down and whittled that down all the way to 2 vendors, and really started implementing the CDP back probably mid-January within our organization and within all of the websites that Scott talked about. So today we're going to talk a little bit about a CDP. You know, what is it and what is it doing? What benefits does it have? How we're using it at WTWH, not only for ourselves, but also how we're leveraging it with our partners or our customers to help them do more targeted advertising and marketing programs. We're going to talk about what those opportunities are. We have 3 different offerings for our customers. Content affinity targeting, intent-based marketing, and account-based marketing. And then we'll share some best practices and some things we've learned along the way. We had some early adopters, customers that we work with that let us use them as guinea pigs when we were trying to productize this and test out what works best and how do we position this and what do we need to do to reach the right person. So I'm not sure if anyone's ever heard of a CDP before, but a CDP is really a customer data platform. This is a definition from Gartner. It's an integrated database that's really managed by marketers and some tech people. I would be remiss if I didn't say that our developers are not behind the scenes as well helping me do this. It's really unifying a customer's data, either offline, online, and across all the different disparate channels to really bring in one user experience and make that experience more seamless. So we went on this journey, we vetted all these CDPs, and in the end we ended up going with a company called Lytics. If you're familiar with them, you may have heard of them. They're one of the largest players in the CDP market in terms of vendors. So we've been running with Lytics since January. Started some of these programs in early spring to test them out with our customers. And some of the benefits of the CDP, and I'll take a step back. And when we say customer data platform, for us, because we're a B2B media company, our customers are not our customers that buy advertising, it's our customers that are our users. So we've implemented the CDP on our sites to get a better sense of our users and the content that they're consuming on our sites. A lot of major organizations, usually mostly on the B2C side, B2C side, they may have CDPs that they're running to learn more about their consumers' behavior on their websites or offline in store. So a lot of what you're going to see here is stuff that's been going on for a long time in the consumer side. It's now starting to integrate into the B2B side, and we as a B2B media company that likes to embrace technology wanted to jump ahead and implement this and orchestrate this journey using customer data platforms. So really what the customer data platform is it's a data connection point. So we have a lot of disparate systems where we're collecting a lot of data about our users. You can come to our site, you can fill out a form for a white paper, you may fill out a webinar registration on On24, which is our webinar database. You may fill out something for a live event with our Cvent platform. You may sign up for an email newsletter on our ESP. So we have all these disparate places where we're collecting data about our users. What the CDP is really doing is taking all of those disparate data points and creating a better unified profile of our users. And it's enriching what we know about those users through the identifying what they're doing on our websites as far as consuming content. So it's enriching that data so we know more about the type of content that they're consuming, which sites they're consuming that content on, how frequently they're consuming it, what the best day and time is to reach them. And then once we have all this data in place, we're able to orchestrate some marketing tactics against it. We're able to then deliver messages on our different marketing vehicles, whether it be on our sites or through email, because we're better able to identify these users and what they care about. So the whole point is to try to make meaningful connections out of anonymous behavior. As Scott was talking about before, most website traffic is anonymous. Most website traffic to any of your sites is anonymous. A lot of website traffic to our sites is anonymous. We don't know a whole lot about those people until they start to do things, until they start to take actions and tell us more about themselves. So the whole point of the CDP is to help us get a better sense of our users and take those anonymous users to known users because of the content that they're consuming, because of the data points they're giving to us, so that we can build out a better profile of who they are, where they work, get as much contact information from them as possible. We have a sense of their behavior on the sites, how frequently they're coming back to the sites, their propensity and momentum to consume certain types of content, and then also their content affinity and the content affinity scores associated with certain topics. We have 10 different industries, as you saw in Scott's presentation, 50 plus sites. So our users run the gamut of different types of topics that they consume content on. So our first way of leveraging the CDP is for ourselves, to help ourselves promote things like audience development. So we're using the CDP to get more subscribers to our email newsletters. We're using it to promote custom content programs that we may have running with some of our advertisers. We're using it to promote our events. We run in-person events. We're also using it to promote related content, because if I know that you care about robotics, you probably also may care about artificial intelligence. So I can marry up your interest in one topic by presenting you content on another to keep you on our websites. So this is how we're using it internally, but I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're using it externally to help position our customers' messages to these relevant content affinity groups. So our AI program opportunities right now center around content affinity targeting, this is topic-based targeting across our network of sites. And it's our ability to identify users based on the content that they consume and position a marketing message from our sponsors to that specific group of people when they are on our sites. Intent-based marketing and account-based marketing are outside of our network. This is leveraging another tool that we've partnered with. This is a third-party tool. It is not the CDP, but in the same sense, we are able to identify specific types of users based on, again, their intent for certain topics based on their aggregated activity online at work. So searches that they're doing, content that they're consuming. Again, doesn't have to be on our sites. It could be anywhere on the internet. And then we're able to target and narrow down those specific users by industries and titles, geographies, and company size to make sure that we can reach the right customer for our customers, because we want to target the industries they care about reaching. And then account-based marketing is really very specific to a list of key accounts or prospects. So to start off with Affinity, again, this is within our network of sites. What we are able to do is target users with relevant content offers based on content that they have an affinity for. So it's not you just came to our site once and you read something on 3D printing and then you're in that affinity group. You have to have some momentum and propensity to come back and read more content about 3D printing before you are considered to be in an affinity group. Right now we have over 825 topics available for targeting across our network of sites, across all of our verticals. That is growing every day. This all starts by us identifying an affinity audience. So we work with our customers to determine what topic best matches, their product offering and what type of customer they would be looking for. And if they're in the DC motor category, for example, we would want to try to identify an affinity group for DC motors, which this is an example. 62,400 roughly users have an affinity for DC motor content across our network of sites. So we first identify the audience, build out that audience, and then what we're able to do is deliver the right message to the right person at the right time. I think the theme we've been hearing about, to this specific group of folks because they have an affinity for that topic. So this is what the message looks like. And again, this message is not shown to anyone who comes to our websites. It's only going to be shown to those people who have an affinity for that topic. It's a message that will show when they come. We can set rules around it, how often it's shown. We can set rules around whether or not it's shown again if they actually take the action for it. But it is a call to action, a headline, some copy, and then usually most of our partners, customers that we're working with, are using the call to action to lead to somewhere on their site, or they're collecting, maybe more information for a download, something like that. What we're finding is that really very valuable content, white papers, ebooks, some type of asset is working best in terms of the type of content to be featured. Some companies like to feature products, I get that, but it doesn't resonate on this platform, just with the customers we've been doing this for so far, but that's just an example of what one looks like. Again, best performing creative is related to ebooks and white papers and valuable content that our users can read to help them with their application. A lot of our audience is design engineers or installers and people who need information on how to use components to make or create whatever they're trying to do from a design perspective. So this is the type of content that's performing best. And then this are some examples across all of our industry groups, what some of the affinity groups would look like. So these affinity groups are constantly changing and growing. Again, as more people consume more content about a certain topic, obviously that affinity group increases. Some key topics and some of the markets you can see here, 3D printing is probably one of our biggest affinity groups. We have over 1 million users who have an affinity for 3D printing across our network of sites. But we run the gamut here of all the different industries and potential topics in which a customer could sponsor. So in terms of how we position this, we've positioned this as an exclusive offering for advertisers. We know that advertisers like to buy an exclusivity. So if you are the sponsor of an affinity topic like 3D printing or DC motors, you are exclusively that sponsor for 3 months. So we're selling this in flights. We don't have sites where people come back every day, obviously. So in order to reach as many people in each of those affinity groups as possible, we need that time. So with 3-month flight, it seems to be working in order to reach as many as possible. Of course, if you after the 3 months you wanna renew that, you have the option because you've had that topic. But it is a 3-month flight and it is exclusive. And then our sponsors are providing the assets, the messaging, and then we're building out the offers within the CDP itself. And then useful assets, like I said, white papers, app stories, those are performing better. What we're able to tell our sponsors or our advertisers after a campaign is done is how many people we reach. So there's a universe of an affinity group. We can tell you after the 3 months is done, how many of those people we reached, and then how many clicks there were to that offer. And in terms of pricing, it's kind of all over the board depending on the size of the audience. Obviously, in the slides we saw previously, we have some very niche, narrow audiences that are still growing, and then you have an audience that has 1.1 million users. So it's kind of a sliding scale depending on the audience. So that is all within WTWH's network of sites. This is all leveraging our CDP as far as affinity is concerned. And then the next thing I want to jump to is intent marketing. Intent marketing is there's some prediction here based on looking at intent data. And intent data is data collected about a user's online behavior specifically related to content consumption that provides some type of insights or predictability in their maybe intent to take an action on something, purchase a certain type of product, or maybe as a collective buying group, there's activity going on at a company around a certain topic. So perhaps that company is looking to make a purchasing decision. So intent data is looking at behavior across the internet, really has nothing to do with our websites, and looking for users and identifying what they're interested in based on topics that they're searching for online, content that they're downloading, maybe webinars they're attending, registration for events, content sharing, things that they're doing, any behavior specifically related to what they're doing at work online. So how we're doing this is through another AI tool that we've partnered with. And what this tool does is it is analyzing the content consumption of hundreds of thousands of manufacturing companies really across the world. And it's identifying when users within those organizations have an active demand for a certain product or service based on their topic searches. So what we're able to do is create an audience based on intent topics and then layer in some other information like demographics and firmographics by industry and geography and function to really narrow down and get to the specific people or person within those organizations where that intent is happening. And this is a display program. So this is banner ads that are showing across the internet when these users are online at work on sites that you'd go to, while you were at work. So how we're able to do this is we're part of a B2B data co-op. We partnered with a company that really partners with a bunch of other media companies, agencies, research firms, technology firms, and it pools all this data together that's happening on all these companies' sites. And it's a data cooperative in that we're able to get direct access to this data pool and build out these buyer intent models using the data from all of these different types of organizations. So what we have to do in return is we contribute our brand an anonymous behavior. So we allow them to put a cookie in our site so that they can get our visitor consumption data anonymously in order to put this all within this cooperative that we're all leveraging together. So this data cooperative is analyzing 28 billion content consumption events per quarter. There's over almost 4,000 sites in the data co-op. It is all B2B specific, and it is very much manufacturing specific. We looked at a lot of different options. We went with this one because it lined up best with our markets because it was B2B and it was manufacturing heavy. It's looking at 2.8 million businesses and over 450 different type of segments that we can target. So again, the tool, it's all natural language processing, AI, the voodoo that happens in our consumer lives that we think, can't happen in the business world, but it really does. And it's looking at interest spikes among buying groups or users at specific businesses. Again, looking at their behavior, what are they doing, what types of searches are they doing, what are they registering for, all that is happening within this data co-op, and then we're able to build out audiences using that intent and the demographic data to work with our partners and say there's a purchase intent for this product which lines up with your business. So you probably want to put an ad in front of these potential customers. So again, behavior at scale is all over the place. Doesn't make much sense until you start to apply the natural language processing and the machine learning, which is on the next slide, to provide some type of intent around what the behavior is. And that's what this tool is doing. It's leveraging AI to predict and provide intent of that user behavior. And then the other cool thing it could do, again, the creepy side of things, I get it, it's then able to further define by industry, location, and size, and then even function the specific activity, because obviously if design engineers are searching for motors within a company, it's not the HR people that we're going to be targeting. We're going to be targeting the design engineers because the HR people are not going to be searching for and specifying motors. So again, it's the ability to target specifically that group of users versus anyone else in a company by layering in the title and function. And so then we're able to build an audience, and we take a topic, an intent topic. We work with our customers to identify what industries make the most sense for them, what industries are their targets. Geographically, a lot of our customers want to target folks in the United States, but we have some customers that have some efforts and they want to target different countries like Mexico and Canada, or even Europe and Asia, so we can really scale it to any country. Functional area, obviously, like I said, is very important. You want to make sure we're reaching the right person or persons. We can even add in company size or revenue. We only care about the large companies, or we only care about companies with X amount of employees. We can add in seniority. We only care about the C-level, or we only care about the managers. And then the other option is targeting by specific company name. So this is an example of an intent audience build. This is around the power control market or topics. So intent topics for this audience poll were around industrial control systems, power control, power connectors, and power cables. And then layering in the specific industries that this customer cared about. Again, it covers the gamut in manufacturing industries. It's anything you can imagine. This is just an example of 5. For the purposes of this, we put in all engineering, and this customer just wanted to reach the United States. When we plug in all this data, the tool then tells us how many devices are available for targeting with digital display, and it does it from a device perspective, because if you think about how many devices we all have, obviously most of us have 2 to 3 devices, and most of us are using those devices throughout the day to do online searches and consume content. So rather than looking at this from a person perspective, it's looking at it from a device perspective, and that's how we're identifying the audience for targeting. So as I said before, this is all digital display ads. So these are ads that appear on brand safe sites, and brand safe sites would be the types of sites you would go to while you're at work: weather, sports, other industry related sites, news types of sites. This is where those ads would show. And then just to give you some real life examples of some customers we've worked with on this. We had a customer in the EE space that did intent campaigns around 4 specific different types of technologies or products. And the one thing that we have found is in terms of performance, when the message is married up to that specific intent group, we see very good performance. And we were getting a 1.4% click-through rate on the banner ads for these campaigns, which is unheard of for banners. I think if everyone in the room who buys banners, you'll know that. But each intent group had a specific ad just for that group. So there was one around signal, there was one around analog simulation, there was one around power, and each of these messages were matched up specifically with that intent audience so that it really resonated in terms of who they were reaching. This is just another example. GE, they still seeing fairly favorable results on the click-through side. They also wanted to do different campaigns by countries, so they have 4 different countries, 4 different campaigns that we did for them, targeting the same intent topic, but in 4 different geographic areas. So it's just to kind of show that we can skin this a bunch of different ways with a bunch of different factors. And then the last AI program we have is around account-based marketing. So obviously, account-based marketing is fishing for the right customer, right? So it's a very intentional and customized marketing campaign to almost literally a prospect of one or accounts, because you know specifically that these customers have a propensity for whatever service or product you have. So the messages are really based on that need of those particular businesses. And this is where our customers are telling us, hey, we already know these are the types of companies we want to reach. So they're giving us lists. They're giving us lists of their target accounts. And then we're uploading those domains to the tool. And then we're identifying the right people within the organizations they want to reach, whether it's the design engineers or the buyers or specifiers. And then we're able to develop and build an audience that way. So it's kind of the reverse. When we look at intent, the tool tells us here's the domains where all this activity is taking place. This is, we tell it, hey, we need to find these people at these companies, and we build out an audience that way. And then it's the same vehicle, it's still at display ads, but this is specifically to that list of prospects rather than this intent group. And then again, creative messaging is key. We found the same thing here. We're seeing higher engagement with the named accounts where the creative really features relevant messaging that addresses the need of those specific customers or prospects. So on the intent and account-based side, it's really hundreds of thousands of topics that we're able to target from an intent perspective. It's usually just working with our customers to figure out what makes the most sense, and then narrowing it down by the industries they care about, by the people they want to reach within the organizations, and the geography. And then it's display ads that are served to this audience on their devices, on brand safe sites. Account-based marketing is specific to a list of target accounts or prospects. The way we're positioning this is we sell these on a monthly basis by CPM. Again, it's digital display, so we're able to tell our customers things like impressions, clicks, click-through rates, and we take tracking URLs and tags and all that good stuff. So at this point, I usually like to recap because it all starts to flow together. What are all these things? So content affinity targeting, again, this is within the WTWH network, across our network of sites. We're able to target specific user groups based on their content affinity and position marketing messages from our advertisers to those groups specifically. Intent-based marketing is digital display ads, and these are going to appear to a specific group based on their aggregated web searches and activity while at work. And then account-based marketing is banner ads to prospects or key accounts at the key account or target level.